Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Those proposed changes from the VA are prompting several different questions. Now, for those that don't know, the proposed changes that I'm talking about are the VA's proposed changes to reduce sleep apnea to a 0% if it's what they deem essentially correctable with a CPAP, and then eliminating the ability to even claim tinnitus as a condition itself. And then thirdly is the change to mental health, but that's actually a positive change. So that's not really concerning too many folks. It's mostly those first two. Now, those proposed changes, the three questions that are really coming out of those are, one, when would this go into effect? Number two is, am I safe? Am I going to be, protected from this? And then the third is, look, I didn't file for those. I have those. What can I do to protect myself against any of these negative changes? I'm just going to dive into it here real quick and answer those three questions for you and go from there. Now, for those that don't know, I have held two different accreditations through the VA. I was a veteran service officer for many years. I worked in veterans benefits for over a decade in different facets, and I was the director of two different programs through that time period. So I went through some changes. Obviously, I'm a veteran. I filed my own VA claim stuff, and I'm 100% permanent and total, all that. And the only reason I'm throwing that out there is that it's not just me guessing out of nowhere, right? I've been around this block several times. So, in any case, let's jump into it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. It really does help. If you want to support the channel in other ways, please do so by becoming a member. That helps me to find you quicker in the comments. You can find that in the homepage of this channel, and you'll see highlighted members and a join button somewhere there. Thank you to all you members. I really do appreciate it. Another thing out there is a second channel that I created with a co-host. That's Clay from the Civ Div. And we have some back and forth dialogue and more of a longer form deep dive into subjects. So I'd love for you to check that out. That's at Veterans Daily. All right, so let's jump into it here. So the proposed changes, yes, they are proposed. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go through exactly like they're said. Now, here's the thing. When is it going to go through? That's the first question we get. And there are some, I guess we'll call it naysayers out there going, look, this was proposed a couple years ago. It's been crickets. There's been nothing happening with it. Let sleeping dogs sleep, and it's just going to go away, and stick your head in the sand and forget about it. So I disagree with that. I think that it's more of a situation in which it will eventually come to pass. It's just when, right? And you can't really put a time frame on it. There's no time frames for the VA to enact proposed changes. However, you can look at past situations, and the most recently passed proposed change that affects something to do with compensation, which I'm not going to dive into it. It affects reservist and National Guard members, okay? So if you're in the reserves or the National Guard, you can file a VA claim and you can have that rolling, and you have to select what you want, blah, blah. The bottom line is that the compensation received by those individuals, there was a proposed rule, okay? Same thing with this proposed rule to the schedule of ratings. It's a proposed rule. You find it in the Federal Register, and in there they'll open it up for public comments. They'll take those public comments into consideration, and then they'll make any applicable changes to their proposed rule change. They'll make those changes there, and then they'll implement. So this proposed rule that just got enacted here in January for reservist and National Guard members was proposed 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So this schedule of rating proposed change has been a couple years. So we're 2 years in on this schedule of rating proposed change. Now, do I think it's going to happen, let's say this year? I personally do not, and the reason why is it's an election year. It's a presidential election year. The VA is part of the president's cabinet, so it would probably get a little bit of backlash, and I think just politically, if I were the president, I would tell the VA not to do it and hold off until later. And that's just me. So I don't think it will. Doesn't mean that it won't. It could. the other piece is that the VA has already changed 9 out of 15-ish rating schedules already. They've already done this whole proposed change, take in public comments, implement the change. Okay, next one. So they've already done this to 9 of the 15. The VA themselves says we're changing all of the rating schedules. So when you start to couple all that together, you can ascertain that, oh yes, a change is coming and it will happen. We just don't know exactly when, and we don't know exactly what it will look like. The VA could absolutely make some tweaks or changes based on public comment that was received during that 60-day window for public comment. An example would be, let's say that the VA decides, you know what, we're not going to eliminate the rating for tinnitus. We're just going to make it a 0% instead of a 10, which in my opinion would be a win for us as a veteran community, because you can hang secondaries on that as a service-connected condition. So all that to say is that the first question is, when is this going to go into effect? My thought is, well, anytime between now and 5 years from now, although I highly believe that it won't happen in this year. I think it'll happen probably 2025 or even 2026. So, and again, don't know exactly what the change is going to look like, because we don't know what the VA is doing with the information received from the public comments. All right, so the second question is, okay, fine, now it's going to happen, right? Am I safe? Okay, so there are rules, and it's in the CFR, which is the Code of Federal Regulations, and I'm not going to bore you with what section and this and that. The bottom line is that there are protections in there that in the event that the VA changes the rating schedule, they don't go back and change people that have already been rated. They hold you to the rating schedule that you were basically assigned with during your time of getting that service connection. So as far as all of that is concerned. Now, if you think you'll be in a better position, then you can absolutely file a new claim for an increase on the new criteria. And that would happen with, let's say, mental health, with the elimination of the total social and occupational impairments. If that does happen and they remove those, you could absolutely see folks that are maybe at a 70% potentially reach that 100% mark for mental health. So you would want to file for an increase in that situation if you believe that would happen. However, for those other ones, your sleep apnea and your tinnitus, they're going to hold you to the rating schedule that assigned you your rating. So you're going to be safe. You're going to essentially be grandfathered in with those rules in the Code of Federal Regulations. So you shouldn't have to worry about any of that. Then the question then becomes, okay, well, I have those conditions, I just haven't filed yet. Well, you have 3 buckets of person, right, that you could fall in, right? Buckets of veterans or what have you. So you have the veteran bucket, you have the reservist or National Guard member bucket, and then you have the active duty person bucket, okay? So if you're a veteran, I say file for it sooner than later, because you never know when the proposed changes are going to go into effect, and you don't know exactly what they're going to be. You do know that they're not going to be any better than they are today for tinnitus and sleep apnea. So if you have those, file for them. That's the veteran bucket. The reservist National Guard bucket, okay, really depends on your goals, and you want to kind of do your own research on it. But you want to think about, how is it going to impact your career? If you're trying to push out your 20 plus years with some reserve time, you need to think about what your rating would I guess what collateral effects having a VA rating would basically put on you with regard to your goals with the military, right? So you need to think about it. As far as reservists and National Guard members go, you can file a claim anytime. The VA doesn't care. There's no sort of, you have to wait till a certain period. None of that. You can file whenever you want as a reservist or National Guard member. If you know you're going to get out of the National Guard or the reserves, and you know that you're not going to make it a career, then file for those conditions as soon as possible. Again, Now, again, if you're going to try to make it a career and you got another 8 years to go to hit your 20-year mark, then you might want to have a conversation with somebody, because you don't want to get a rating that's going to impede your ability to stay in, right? So you want to have some real conversations with somebody that you trust, or do some research. Next is the bucket of currently in the military. If you're currently in the military, your real only option is that you can file a benefits delivery at discharge claim, meaning that you can file a claim with the VA if you're active duty and you have between 6 months and 3 months left until your discharge date or retirement date. Okay, so you have a 3 to 6 month window prior to your discharge or retirement date that you can file a claim with the VA. Take advantage of that. You can absolutely file for those conditions in that time frame, and I would do so. The beauty of being in the military and understanding anything really, a small amount about the VA, as long as you understand a little bit about your process with the VA, you're going to be golden. And I'll tell you, the two most important things to know while you're in is get diagnosed for everything that you could possibly get diagnosed for while you're in. You hurt your knee that time and it still bugs you a little bit. You have GERD, bad heartburn, gastroesophageal reflux disease. You have migraines. You have back issues. You hurt your elbow that time. You know, you tweaked your neck when you jumped into the Humvee and hit your helmet on the on the door frame, right? Whatever it is, make sure you get it annotated while you're in service. That will help you with the nexus. That's the number one thing. Number two thing to know is that you can file a claim with the VA at 6 months prior to your discharge or your retirement date. So take advantage of that, especially if it's in regard to these two conditions, your tinnitus and your sleep apnea. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.